Hello health champions! Today I'm going to talk about how incredibly important it is to have a strong immune system if you should cross paths with the coronavirus, COVID-19. And we want to talk about the role of vitamin C in supporting that immune system. Then we're going to talk about what vitamin C actually is and what are the top 10 foods where you can get it. Coming right up. Hey, I'm Dr. Ekberg. I'm a holistic doctor and a former Olympic decathlete. And if you want to truly master health by understanding how the body really works, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. The coronavirus is a terrible thing. It is a pandemic, but the media make it out to sound as if we're all going to die. And that's simply not true. So let's talk about what is the difference between those people who make it and those who don't. So they're starting to see some patterns with the coronavirus. And one thing they're seeing is that there seems to be a slow phase of about 1 week. And then after that 1 week, where it's kind of progressing slowly, then either the person gets better and they recover, or the patient rather quickly gets worse and it turns into an emergency or a crisis. And someone described it as if it seems like it takes 1 week for the body to figure out if it's going to beat this thing or not. So if it wins, you recover, and if it fails, then you go to the hospital and become a critical case. But the difference between those two scenarios is how strong is your body? How strong is your immune system? Let's talk about a few key factors with immunity. One of them is stress, because the more stress you have, the more your immune system shuts down. Probably everyone can relate to how they're more likely to get a cold or flu if they're stressed, if they're in a high time of stress. And the same thing holds true for the coronavirus. Sugar is one of the worst things that you can eat because it wreaks havoc with virtually every function in your body, including your immune system. And what they're finding now with the coronavirus is that people with insulin resistance, that is a hugely complicating factor. That the death rate of people with insulin resistance, meaning diabetes or high blood pressure or cardiovascular disease, the death rate is many, many times higher. Degeneration is another factor, and that's why the elderly are having such a hard time. The longer you live, the more you degenerate to some degree. There are exceptions, and that's why the death rate is so high among the elderly. And then it's your overall nutritional status. And it is something that you build over time, but you can also have some immediate deficiencies. And two of the most important ones are vitamin D and vitamin C. So in this video, we're going to focus on vitamin C and talk about what it really is and what it does and where to get it. So the research on vitamin C is a bit conflicting, because some people say that, oh, it does all these wonderful things, but then there are other studies that say, well, we studied the symptoms, but we didn't find any benefit whatsoever. Well, we're not really interested in symptoms. We're interested in what are the effects on the immune system. And those are pretty well documented. That it is an immune activator. It initiates the activity of antibodies and also the white blood cells, your B lymphocytes and your killer T cells. And your WBCs, that's your white blood cells. Those are your immune cells that your body makes so that they can go out and gobble up foreign invaders like virus and bacteria. Vitamin C also improves the function of interferon, which is an incredibly powerful immune chemical. And there is an herb called echinacea that only really works together with vitamin C, but then when it does, it has been shown to have pretty strong immune boosting benefits. So these are just some of the effects, but we don't want to get too much into the details. We want to talk more about what vitamin C is and where to get it. It's widely believed that we don't really have vitamin C deficiencies anymore. Most doctors will say that, oh, vitamin C deficient, they don't really exist. And that's because scurvy is really rare, and they think of vitamin C deficiency only as scurvy. If you don't have scurvy, you're not vitamin C deficient. Well, scurvy is an extreme deficiency. That's when you have so little you can't keep up even basic manufacture of collagen. And collagen is a structural protein. If you don't make enough of it, then you can't create the connective tissue in the body. And one of the first places to suffer are your gums. So after a few months of scurvy, your teeth start falling out and you start having internal bleeding and so forth. It's a terrible thing. But there are different degrees of vitamin C deficiency. And in my opinion, when you have lesser degrees of collagen weaknesses, such as microvessel disease and spider veins, I believe that those are signs of a milder form of vitamin C deficiency. So a severe deficiency leading to scurvy is defined as less than 46 milligrams of vitamin C or ascorbic acid per day. And we're going to talk about what the difference is, that they're not really the same thing, even though they're defined as the same thing. A mild deficiency would be somewhere between 46 and 60 milligrams, because the previous recommendation for vitamin C daily intake was set at 60 milligrams. Recently, they've raised it to about 75 milligrams for women and 90 milligrams for men. And that is what we today consider a sufficiency. But we're not really only interested in sufficiency. We want to look at what might be optimal, because during times of stress and during times of infection, your body requires more. So let's just kind of double it and say that optimal is probably somewhere between 150 to 200, especially when your body has an increased need. But when they make those recommendations of vitamin C, the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, and they say it should be 75 to 90 milligrams, what is it that they're recommending? It's 90 milligrams of what? Is it the vitamin C or is it ascorbic acid? And I know that you did your research, you looked it up, and the dictionary says they're the same thing. Well, we're going to take it a little bit further, and we're going to show you that they're not the same thing. And this is a huge part of the problem and the confusion. Vitamin C does have ascorbic acid, but it is not just ascorbic acid. Vitamin C is a complex. It's a functional unit. And it consists of several different components. It has something called ascorbigen and bioflavonoid complexes. And they have multiple coordinating roles in the overall function and coordination of the vitamin C complex. Then we have something called tyrosinase, which is an enzyme, and this is a form of organic copper. It has a role of trace mineral activator, and it is the thing that actually stimulates and makes the white blood cells get going. So that is the immune system portion of this. Then we have something called P factors, K factors, and J factors. The P factors are also known as rutin, which is the portion responsible for the vessel strength and the collagen formation. The K factors are involved in the clotting mechanism of the blood, and the J factors enhance the ability of the red blood cells to carry oxygen. So all of these are vitally important, and they all have different roles, and they are what provides the ability of vitamin C to promote and enhance and support the immune system. So what about ascorbic acid? Ascorbic acid is sort of like the packaging. It is an antioxidant, and antioxidants are preservatives. That's why ascorbic acid is often added to food as a safe preservative. It keeps things, vegetables, from turning brown, for example. And it's the wrapper, it packages, it protects the vitamin C complex. So it's a good thing. and it needs to be there, and it plays a part in the overall function of the complex. But ascorbic acid is not vitamin C, and ascorbic acid by itself does not provide these functions that we talked about. So a vitamin complex is a functional machine, if you want to call it. We can think of it as a biochemical machine, much like a clock is a mechanical machine. So if you open up an old clock and you look in the back and you see it has all these different moving parts, it doesn't take a genius to understand that all those parts work together. It would make absolutely no sense to open up that clock and look and ask yourself, I wonder which part tells time. It's not one part that provides the function, it's the pieces together. So just like one part can't tell time, one portion, one piece of the vitamin C complex can't do all the things that vitamin C is supposed to do. So they're all important, including the ascorbic acid, but it's the biochemical machine, it's the complex that does the work together. So oftentimes when we hear about the therapeutic benefits of vitamin C or ascorbic acid, they're talking about mega doses. They're talking about 5 or 10 or 20,000 milligrams of ascorbic acid. And what does that do? Well, it is an antioxidant, so it's kind of like a safe drug. In large doses, it's potent enough to have drug-like effects. It can come in like a bulldozer and shift physiology. It can squash some of the body's own functions. And in that sense, it's a short-term drug, and it's safer than most drugs because it doesn't have a lot of toxic effects short-term. However, long-term, it creates more imbalance. It creates more problems than it helps with. And the reason is that ascorbic acid is a synthetic isolate. It's made from cornstarch or sugar primarily, and it doesn't have all these different pieces. So when you put a lot of the ascorbic acid in, it's going to go into the body and start combining. It's going to start acting together with the amount of the other components that your body already has. So what that does, if you have a little bit of something and then you add a ton of something, and they go together, the ton of something is going to start pulling the smaller resources from the body. So in the long run, you're leaching those nutrients from your body and you're creating a bigger imbalance. Now, when you get it from food, that's a different story because now you're always getting the whole complex. Nature always packages the complex together. That's the beauty of it. But we want to keep in mind that when they measure it, they give us the number based on how much ascorbic acid is in that food. So in reality, the number of vitamin C activity, the amount of vitamin C complex activity that you're getting may be 10 times as much as what it looks like on paper based on how much ascorbic acid it contains. So I don't know the exact number, but based on my experience, whole food complex vitamin C goes a lot further, and we probably don't even need as much as the recommended daily allowance if you get the real thing. However, in times of infection and stress, it never hurts to have a little extra. The top 5 sources of whole food vitamin C are actually disqualified. And why do you ask? Because these foods, the cacao plums, acerola cherries, rose hips, chili peppers, and parsley, they're either not available in a lot of places, or you're kind of limited to how much you can eat. I've never seen cacao plums or acerola cherries or rose hips in my local grocery store or farmer's market, and you can't eat a whole lot of chili peppers. I love parsley, but even if I make some tabbouleh, I'll end up eating, on a pretty big serving, I end up eating about half an ounce, about 15-20 grams of parsley. So it doesn't go very far. It's not a bulk food. So if you have access to cacao plums or these things, then by all means eat them. But we're going to focus on the staple foods that most people have access to every day. Here's our top 10 list. Top of the list is bell pepper, red and yellow. It has 128 milligrams of whole food vitamin C per 100 gram of food. So we're going to go through the whole list, but we're not just going to talk about the top 10. We're going to talk about why I ranked them this way, and we're also going to talk about the sugar content, because we don't want to eat vitamin C, which is a good thing, and then load up on a bunch of sugar, which is a bad thing, and counteract the benefits. Number 2, guava. It's a tropical fruit. It is very high. It's 228 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams of fruit. Broccoli has 89, Brussels sprouts 85, cauliflower has 46, kale is 120, and I'll talk about why they're not in order in a moment. Cabbage has 37, strawberries have 59, then we have kiwi with 93, and orange with 53. So these are absolutely awesome foods that from the top you can eat basically unlimited amounts, and toward the bottom you want to limit it a little bit. So I know this is not a fair comparison because this is not how we eat in real life, but we're going to look at how much would it take to eat from each of these foods to get a very high, 200 milligrams of vitamin C per day. So if you wanted to get your entire 200 milligrams from bell pepper, either red or yellow, you would have to eat 156 grams of that food. That's about 5-6 ounces. Can you do that? Absolutely. That's less than 1 bell pepper. And by the way, green bell pepper would have been number 2, but I didn't want to make a separate item. Green bell pepper has a little bit less vitamin C and a little bit less sugar, so just eat a little bit of both. Guava, you would have to eat only 88 grams, about 3 ounces. Broccoli, you would have to eat half a pound, 224 grams. Brussels sprouts, another half a pound. Cauliflower, you'd have to eat almost a pound, 430 grams. Can it be done? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to eat cauliflower. Kale, 167 grams. So that's not a big number, but 167 grams of kale, that's a big one. That's like probably 4 or 5 or 6 salads worth of kale. Cabbage, 540 grams, that's over a pound. That might be a little hard. Strawberries, 339 grams, that could be done. Kiwi, 216, and orange, 376. So at the top of the list, you could easily get all of your 200 milligrams from one food. And obviously, you're not just going to eat one food, you're going to eat several different ones. So it just shows you that it wouldn't be too hard to get 200 milligrams or even more. But now let's look at the downside, because if it has a lot of sugar, then we don't want to eat too much of that food. First, if you're insulin resistant and you're trying to reverse that, but also sugar does dampen your immune system and creates all kinds of problems in the body. And these foods being non-starchy means that virtually all of the carbs are in the form of sugar, meaning not necessarily sucrose by itself, but it's going to be pretty much even between glucose and fructose in the end. So you can get your whole daily 200 milligrams from bell peppers and only eat 6 grams of carbs. That would easily fit into even a ketogenic diet. With guava, it's a sweet fruit, but you only eat a little bit, so 7.8 grams of carbs. Broccoli, you would get 9 grams, Brussels sprouts 12.2, cauliflower 12.9, kale 8.7. So again, the reason kale is not, in my opinion, either 3rd or 4th place is just because it's tough to eat that much kale. Number 7, cabbage would give you 18 grams, strawberries would give you 16.9, kiwi 25.9, and if you eat about 4 oranges or so, it gives you 33.8 grams of sugar. So this might be, most of these are going to be totally okay, even on a low-carb diet. But once you get into the fruits, now that sugar is going to spike much, much faster, because in the vegetables, there's a lot of fiber to buffer the blood sugar uptake. But with the fruits, that sugar is going to go pretty much in the bloodstream quickly. So even though all of these foods would be okay in my opinion, I would focus on the top half and try to get most of the bulk from there, and then get some of the snacks and eat more sparingly on the bottom half. So just for fun, I created a little index, basically just divided how many milligrams of vitamin C do you get per gram of carbs. So how much good do you get with the bad? And the bad isn't too terribly bad unless you're insulin resistant. So if you're insulin sensitive and healthy, then you don't have to worry about eating a couple of fruits every day. So based on that index, the top food would be red or yellow bell peppers with 32 milligrams of vitamin C per gram of carbs or sugar in that food. Closely followed by guava at 25.7, broccoli at 22.3, Brussels sprouts 16.3, cauliflower 15.5, and kale 23.1. So if you really, really love kale, if you're able to eat half of one of those huge packages every day, then you can move this up to 3rd place on your list. This is just my opinion. Number 7, cabbage 11.1, strawberries 11.8, kiwi 7.7, and orange 5.9. So when it comes to coronavirus, it is a nasty critter. So I'm not trying to say that there's a quick fix, that you can just eat a bunch of vitamin C and you'll be okay, but it's one component that can support your body, all right? You still want to do all of the usual things that they tell you. They're super, super important. Follow all of the guidelines from the CDC and the World Health Organization and the authority, because we have to contain this thing, and the key is to not spread it. So make sure you wash your hands, and you make sure don't touch your face. Start putting some ink on your hands maybe and see where it ends up on your face. Do as best you can to stay at home unless you just have to go out. Make a habit of social distancing. Avoid big crowds. Avoid social gatherings. Don't meet more people than you have to. So those are all the things that are part of the general recommendations, and absolutely do those. But then do a few more things that no one talks about, okay? Cut the sugar. That's the number one thing. If you have ever thought about cutting sugar and you sort of need a reason, then this is the reason. Do it now. And if you have some extra time on your hands, pick up an uplifting book. Find an uplifting tape or a message or a program of some sort, because worry, feeling bad, fear diminishes your immune system. It weakens your body's ability to defend itself. When you have some hope, when you start feeling a little better, your immune system strengthens also. Go for a walk, both to get some fresh air and some circulation and get your mind off of things. Just don't walk where there's a lot of crowds. Go for a walk in the woods or on a trail somewhere. Practice some relaxation. Do some meditation and some yoga and some breathing exercises. And finally realize that the best thing that you can do apart from not getting it and not spreading it is to build your immunity over time. And that's what every video on this channel is about. It's about holistic health. It's about understanding how the body works. It's about building immunity and building stamina and building vitality. And that's what immunity is. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out that one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.